Part 90. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 892. Chapter 892 Take Action, Supernatural Event? Think of this. The middle-aged fat profiteer looked at the 4 workers around him with a much more pleasing look. Good job. Work overtime tonight? I'll give you a bonus on the weekend, 500 yuan each. The 4 workers immediately cheered. Although the workers also knew that the boss was a counterfeit medicine seller. But in the eyes of these illiterate workers, being able to make pills with flour, an immortal thing, already shows that the boss has a conscience. After all, isn't this much better than the business of selling fake wine with industrial alcohol in the countryside, blinding people or even directly killing people? And just when everyone was beaming and full of energy, Suchen took a taxi and came to the small town on the construction road 30 meters away from the workshop. When he was 100 meters away from the small workshop, Suchen released the 9527 in his arms and said to the driver, "Master, please drive slower, I'm a little uncomfortable. Motion sickness. My skills are not that good." The middle-aged driver felt that Suchen was belittling his driving skills. After all, he was an experienced driver for more than 10 years. And he didn't drive very fast. Suchen smiled and said, "It's not your fault, master, it's my weak constitution. I have been motion sick since I was a child, especially in a small car with such a small space. You try to drive as slowly as possible, the slower the better, I will just go slow and it will be fine." The middle-aged driver slowed down. At the same time, 9527 lightning struck and arrived at the gate of the counterfeit medicine workshop. Although the workshop door is closed. But for mosquitoes, where are the gaps that mosquitoes can't enter? This is not a fully sealed metal door like a bank basement. The gate in front of me is just 2 ordinary iron gates painted with blue paint. 9527 fly in easily. Suchen suddenly passed through 9527's field of vision and saw the middle-aged fat profiteer standing in the middle, scolding Fang Qiu and making a big deal for the workers. 9527 following Suchen's order, he flew directly between the legs of the middle-aged fat profiteer. Then he quickly retreated and flew back to Suchen's arms. And this time, Suchen also pretended to open the window to get some air, closed the window, and said to the driver with a smile, "It's a little better, thank you, master." The middle-aged driver said it was okay and stepped on the accelerator to speed up. At this time, inside the small workshop, the middle-aged fat profiteer, who was foaming at the mouth and giving a passionate speech, suddenly felt that his old legs were not obeying his command. He subconsciously took a step forward. Then, a scene that frightened him appeared. I saw his upper leg stepping forward. But the lower half of the leg and the entire length below the knee stood still and did not keep up. With a thud, he fell to the ground. When looking back, his legs were still standing where they were. The fracture is very smooth. It's as smooth as 3D modeling. However, the only difference from the modeling was that scarlet blood quickly overflowed from the section. And he himself also felt severe pain. At the same time, blood spurted out from below. Ah! Ah! The middle-aged fat profiteer let out a horrified and shrill scream. The 4 workers were dumbfounded. I don't understand at all why the boss who just scolded Fang Qiu had both of his legs broken all of a sudden. In broad daylight, this was even more supernatural than a supernatural incident. After being stunned for a long time, the workers sounded something, some called the police, some opened the door, and some ran out. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 893. Chapter 893 is too arrogant. The middle-aged fat profiteer was still shouting loudly, "Don't call the police. Don't call the police. Send me to the hospital." But the workers were stunned. Who listens to him at this time? He is not a living bodhisattva, nor is he very kind to them. It would be good if he could call the police and report 120. Soon, the workers were gone. They are all afraid of taking responsibility. The middle-aged fat profiteer was left screaming and cursing in pain. A few minutes later, the police and 120 arrived. And it was just a few minutes because the middle-aged fat profiteer didn't know the most basic method of stopping bleeding. He had already gone into shock due to excessive blood loss, his face was as pale as paper. However, due to the advancement of modern medicine, blood transfusion later saved her life. Of course it would be impossible to reattach his legs. Because 9527 continues to behave as usual when leaving. At Suchen's reminder, he turned back again and twisted his broken legs into pieces. And because of the extremely fast twisting speed, it took more than 10 seconds for the severed legs to completely fall apart into a pile of minced meat. Half a day later, Zhou Yuanshan also received a criminal case report from here. When he saw the middle-aged fat profiteer's broken legs and their extremely smooth fractures, he jumped up from his seat. Yes. Seeing Zhou Yuanshan's reaction, the apprentice asked curiously, "Master, what's wrong? What other case makes you so angry?" Zhou Yuanshan showed the photo of the middle-aged fat profiteer's broken leg to his apprentice. The latter also stood up directly. Is this kind of wound again? Could it be? Zhou Yuanshan nodded and said 99% of it is probably the same person who did it again. The apprentice said angrily, "How arrogant. 3 crimes were committed in 3 days in a row. Do you really think that our police officers are just for free?" Zhou Yuanshan looked uncertain. The key point is that the current response to these 3 cases in society is almost one-sided. Case 1, balcony gangster, a perennial gangster on buses and subways, who harmed countless women passing by. After his hand was cut off, society applauded. Case 2, the second-generation rich man from the Zhenguai Street Club was not only serving a sentence for a crime, but he also continued to harm ignorant girls and committed crimes in a gang. After his accomplice was killed and the rich second generation was castrated, the society even gave this mysterious man the title of a contemporary hero for the country and the people. Case 3, profiteers selling counterfeit medicines on Jianxi Road. Not to mention this, because of the counterfeit medicines he sold, countless families not only lost property, but also delayed their illness. Now they have their legs cut off. The society even feels that this is not enough and they think they should be shot. Zhou Yuanshan analyzed one by one and said to his disciple Surong, in these 3 cases, although emotionally speaking, these victims all deserved their crimes. However, we are police officers after all. We must not only maintain social order, but also maintain the legitimacy and dignity of the law. Although this mysterious man upheld justice for society, he trampled on the dignity of the law. So, we have to find this mysterious man. The disciple stood up solemnly. "Okay, master." Then, Zhou Yuanshan sighed again, lit a cigarette, took a deep puff, and said in a deep voice, "In addition, the superiors also gave me a death order, asking me to solve this serial case within a month. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 894. Chapter 894 completed the 3rd task. Bid farewell. Disciple, although 1 month is not short, we still don't have a clue. Zhou Yuanshan smoked silently, and the room fell into silence. The other side. After Suchen succeeded. I heard the clear system prompt tone again. Ding. Congratulations on successfully completing G-level bounty mission, Profiteer, mission score, perfect. Ding. The reward amount you get, 10,000. Additional reward amount obtained, 2,000. Ding. You get 2 bounty points for this mission. Soon. The phone vibrated. 12,000 yuan arrived. Suchen's current deposit has reached more than 20,000. It is much better than the situation of only a few yuan 2 days ago. More than 20,000 yuan should be barely enough to rent a suburban house in a first-tier city. Suchen looked at his current total bounty points, which had reached 5 points. If you reach 10 points, you can be promoted to F level, and then you can take on F level missions. The reward amount for F level tasks is at least 10,000 yuan. That way, he can accumulate wealth faster. Currently, the money he gets from the tasks he completes is only enough for him to maintain basic survival. It is impossible to use it to evolve pets or new pets. But everything is difficult at the beginning. 1,000 miles begins with a single step. As long as you pass this primitive accumulation stage and raise your reward level to D level or above, your wealth will accumulate faster. That way, you can start evolving new pets and get a more powerful pet army. After Suchen finished lunch, he returned to the rental house. While telling the landlord aunt about his departure, he checked online for the online response to his work over the past 3 days. Of course there is no problem with the landlady. She had long seen that Suchen was a pauper, and she was afraid that Suchen would run away one day after he owed the rent. Now that he saw Suchen taking the initiative to leave, he was relieved and did not say how many days in advance he would have to leave. Suchen also found on the internet that the response from the society to his 3 missions was indeed good. He also earned the title of a mysterious hero. The so-called great hero serves the country and the people. But the police also issued a reward for him, hoping that people with knowledge around him would provide clues. Suchen was still very satisfied with his actions on this 3rd mission. Unlike the last 2 times, this time the police did not suspect him. After all, the person was in the taxi and it drove all the way without stopping. No one can doubt that there is someone in the car who is responsible for all this. Even Zhou Yuanshan would find it unbelievable even if he knew it was Suchen who did it in the taxi. After all, manipulating a mosquito to do such amazing things is beyond the scope of human cognition. And this also made Suchen realize the potential of the pet army. Just be careful to conceal your whereabouts during the action. Basically, the actions of pets will not be discovered by humans. Even if it was discovered, it would be unbelievable. Had a wonderful night's sleep. Suchen packed his bags and prepared to leave. Before leaving, a girl who also rented across the street knocked on Suchen's door. "Did you hear the landlady say you want to leave?" The girl has a pure appearance, and her appearance score is at least 9 points. Her figure is also excellent. She is about 19 years old. She is in her prime. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 895. Chapter 895 A new starting point. The number of tasks is overwhelming. However, girls know very well how to protect themselves outside, so they usually act ugly and don't repair their appearance if they can. He also wears big glasses. The clothes he wears are also large t-shirts. It perfectly covered her proud figure. Suchen also accidentally discovered her amazing appearance and figure on a rainy day when everyone was hiding from the rain. However, both of them knew the other's situation, and Suchen had no intention of pursuing him. After all, he is a pauper himself. You can't support yourself, but you still want a girlfriend? Suchen can't do this kind of thing. "Well, I'm leaving today," Suchen replied with a smile, while packing his luggage. There was nothing to pack. He was alone, and he just packed everything in 2 bags. "Then, I wish you a safe journey." "Thanks." The girl's face turned red, and she went back to the house without saying much. Suchen smiled. Although the 2 of them lived opposite each other, they didn't have much communication. They were just acquaintances. Suchan picked up his luggage, he handed the keys to the landlord's aunt and left the place he had rented for a year. Taking the train for about half a day, Suchan arrived at a young and vibrant world-class super city. There are tens of millions of people here. Every day there are all kinds of exciting stories happening. Young people from all over the country are coming here and working hard to realize their dreams. When Suchan walked on the road, he found that the pace of life here was extremely fast. He looked forward to looking at the tall buildings around him. He thought to himself, let my legend begin from here. After searching for a while on his mobile phone, it took another half a day. Suchan found a place to live. This is a suburb about 20 kilometers away from the city center. The rent is 2,500 per month, with one bedroom, one living room, one kitchen, and one bathroom, and sunshine. Just right. It's just that the floor is on the top floor, so there's not much sun protection in the summer. But Suchan doesn't plan to live here permanently. After paying 2 months' rent, he settled here. Besides, air conditioners, water heaters, etc. are all available here. Many young people who have just come here to work hard, and even people who have been working hard in the city for several years, also live here. And living on the top floor is also very good for Suchan. This way, privacy is not too much. Too worried. After tidying up for a while, Suchan went to the small restaurant downstairs to eat. At the same time, he looked through the various tasks in the city provided by the system in his mind. He just sat down and ordered the food. Suchan saw the system in his mind. I was shocked when the task list was released. I saw a lot of secret G-level tasks on the list. And the prices were all over 10,000. The key was one of them, G-level bounty mission, revenge. The name seemed quite bluffing. But in fact, a woman's own puppy was pregnant by a neighbor's puppy. She was very angry. So she spent 15,000 yuan to get revenge on the other owner's family. The task requirement was to pour a whole puppy while the other owner was eating. Putting a bottle of vinegar into someone else's bowl will make the owner of the other party angry to death. Suchan was speechless when he saw this kind of task requirement. Nowadays, rich women don't know what to do with a little money. Such a trivial matter will cost 10,000 yuan. 5. Posted on the bounty form. Did you know that this kind of bounty form is a place visited by killers? Can you be a little more serious? Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 896. Chapter 896 Problem Girl. School bullying. Suchan smiled and shook his head. He would not accept such a task. Without him, it would be a shame. His 9527 is also a powerful B-level warrior after all, so how can he do such nonsense as pouring jealousy on others? Moreover, there are a lot of tasks on the task list with a bounty of more than 30,000 yuan, and there are at least dozens of them. He has no shortage of tasks at all. After looking at the task form, Suchan also knew how correct his decision was to move out of his original small city and come to such a first-tier big city. After dinner, I will go back and study which tasks to take. It is best to complete them all in one day tomorrow and directly raise my bounty level to F level. Suchan returned to the rental house and continued to study the bounty mission. Some of the tasks here are very close to each other. It seems that I can complete multiple tasks at once. In this way, the efficiency is increased by n times. Suchan became excited when he thought of this. After all, this also means that his ability to make money has increased several times. Palm Bay. This is a very large community. Because it is too big and old, it is one of the few communities where buses can pass through. It is equivalent to a village. There are exactly 3 tasks here. One is G-level bounty mission, school bullying, the other is G-level bounty mission, the ugly stepmother, and the third is G-level bounty mission, internet gangster. All 3 tasks are in this community. Some people with a bounty on their head live in high-rise buildings, but the highest is only a dozen floors. 9,527 can be freely controlled within 100 meters of Suchen, so a dozen floors is not too high and can still be reached easily. In addition, because they are all within the community, there is no situation where 9,527 attacks are out of reach or beyond the control range like the rich second generation last time. After all, this is a first-tier super city, and everyone basically lives in a house of less than 70 to 100 square meters. Distances are limited. This greatly facilitated Suchen's ability to complete tasks at the same time. After roughly selecting the tasks, Suchen began to carefully examine the requirements of these three tasks. Mission 1, G-Level Bounty Mission, School Bullying. High school girl is a good girl at home. Her parents are executives of large companies and her family is wealthy. Because the Palm community is close to the school of high school girl A, I bought a house here to use as my daughter's accommodation. Usually, parents are busy with work and rarely discipline their daughters. Coupled with the bad friends he made in school and society, he gradually developed a surly character. Pretending to be a good girl to her parents thought their daughter was so good. But in school, she is a little witch. They often gather several of the same bad girls to bully introverted girls from poorer families. Among them, there is especially a girl C who is in the same class because girl A is jealous that she studies better than her, is sweeter and weaker than herself, and is attracted to boys. At the same time, girl A also accidentally learned that a boy she liked also liked girl C. This made her even more jealous. He often beats girl C, splashes water, even splashes urine, takes pictures, and insults her after school or even when she goes to the toilet. At one point, girl C suffered from depression and even had the tendency to commit suicide. This makes girl C's already poor family even more bleak. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 897. Chapter 897 G-Level Bounty Mission, The Ugly Stepmother. Such behavior does not constitute a major violation of the law. However, the impact on the character and growth of young girls, especially high school children, is extremely bad. Some can even ruin a person's life. Therefore, this task is actually a phenomenon that society urgently needs to solve. The task that Suchen saw was to intimidate girl A without her knowledge. Let her give up this school bullying completely. Of course, as for whether the intimidation will leave a psychological shadow on girl A, there are no special requirements for the task. It's a kind of punishment for girl A. In other words, the purpose of this mission is to leave a psychological shadow on girl A, so that she will remember not to bully others like this throughout her life. Let her know how uncomfortable it feels to be bullied and intimidated. Of course, the mission also required that this threat should not be known to her parents. Because in the eyes of her parents, their daughter is the most well-behaved and kind-hearted child in the world. The school had repeatedly reported their daughter's situation and asked her parents to provide some family education, but her parents ignored her and even opposed her. Her parents even complained about the school. My daughter is so well-behaved, how could it be my precious, well-behaved daughter who bullies others? He must have been framed by someone else. In this way, the family's connivance makes girl A more emboldened to commit school bullying and intensify it. I don't know who posted this task. Because the mission requirements are relatively special and require very high concealment, the reward amount is as high as 30,000. It is equivalent to Suchen's previous 3 tasks and more. For Suchen himself, he was naturally very happy to do something that was beneficial to himself and at the same time beneficial to the entire society. Suchen personally feels that school bullying is a very disgusting phenomenon. It doesn't seem serious on the surface, but in places that no one can see, it has a very bad impact, especially on the character and inner growth of young people. Suchan decided to scare this girl. It would be best for her to remember this lesson for the rest of her life. Let's look at the second bounty mission, G-level bounty mission, the ugly stepmother. This one isn't too complicated. It's not even remotely related to the killer. First of all, because of the divorce, the man found a new wife. Then a 3-year-old child also lived with the man. But the wife I married was pregnant and gave birth to a half-year-old son. In addition, this wife is also small-minded, so she doesn't like her husband's original child. He even considered whether he would compete with his biological children for family property in the future. Then he tried every means to abuse his husband's 3-year-old child. He is even very talented in acting. The abuse a child suffers is described as bullying in preschool. The key is that this man is a businessman. He is a busy man and does not have much time to take care of his family. Occasionally, I discovered that my eldest son was being abused, so I went to the preschool to make a big fuss. After switching to another preschool, the same problem still occurs. The requirement of the reward mission is to use the home surveillance system that they already have at home to post the video of the stepmother abusing the child online and publish it to the society. Of course, the method must be clean and neat, and cannot catch the other party's feed. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 898. Chapter 898, Saw the Road to Wealth. Although Suchan has some doubts about whether 9527 can achieve this kind of electrical control that is very simple for humans but very complicated for animals. But think about it and give it a try first. If 9527 can do this kind of thing under his control, then he will have expanded his pet's new abilities. It will be more helpful and reference for you to take on diversified tasks or complete tasks more smoothly in the future. The reward for this task is 20,000. If 9527 can do it, the price/performance ratio is quite high. As for the third mission, G-level bounty mission, Internet Black Hand. This one is just as disgusting as Gorilla in the first mission. Modern people who live in an online environment all know internet trolls. The internet gangster on the bounty mission is a master of internet trolls. And they also rely on internet trolls to make a living, make money, and even get rich. In reality, this internet gangster is a fat man weighing 200 pounds. He has little workability and his personality is withdrawn and extreme. Because my life is unsatisfactory, I often go to online forums and comment areas to troll anyone I catch. It's okay if you ignore him. This guy just curses and no one cares. If you pay attention to him and squirt with him, he will get excited. The longest record is that I caught a girl and sprayed her for 3 years just because of the smog problem. What is the concept of 3 years? Because of the constant harassment and insults from this internet gangster, the girl started to complain. After spraying for an hour or two, I found that I was no match for the opponent. The firepower was seriously insufficient. Not only was he beaten completely by the opponent, but he also suffered from anger. It feels like all 18 generations of my ancestors have been poached by the other party. The girl quickly blocked the other person. Unexpectedly, this guy discovered that he had been blocked and went to major websites to post insulting posts about the girl. Even if some of them are blocked by the website, they continue to send and change their accounts. I posted it for a whole month, and the girl was so scared that she didn't even dare to go online. And it's not over yet. This 200-pound internet gangster had no idea where he got this girl's human flesh information. This is a big deal. It was even more exciting. Sending threatening letters, wreaths, paper money, and shrouds are all relatively light. They even made threatening calls and even committed fraud against the girl's family. After the girl's family called the police, this guy was put in a cell and kept quiet for a while. Who knew that when he was released 6 months later, he would still hold a grudge? But this time he learned to behave. He did not use his own name to intimidate or defraud the girl's family. Instead, they used hacking methods online to hire others to intimidate and defraud the girl's family. Even after the girl's family couldn't bear the harassment and moved out of the city 2 years later, he still used his powerful human flesh ability to find their address and continued to intimidate and harass them. The key is that this guy's methods have become very clever. I don't know where I got the hacking skills. The police station unexpectedly couldn't find any evidence against him for a while. It wasn't until 3 years later that the girl's family gave in and gave him a full $300,000 through some means, and then they finally found peace. And this also allowed this 200-pound internet gangster to see the huge profits of the intimidation method of internet and reality. From his point of view, he saw the road to wealth. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 899. Chapter 899 Reward amount of 500,000. This unstoppable move directly allowed him to develop 2 groups of people online and offline. Using superb hacking methods, each other does not know any information about the other party. There is only one single line of contact. Often the police station catches one of the offline personnel, and then the clues are cut off. Because even this offline person himself does not know who his accomplices are, who his bosses are, and who his contacts are. This 200-pound internet gangster has been hanging up in the police station for a long time and has been unable to solve the case. But the information was actually posted on the bounty task list. This is very intriguing. Because this bounty task list is not made by the pet evolution system. If it was done by the system, then Suchen wouldn't have any doubts. Because the system is invincible. But this bounty task list was actually made by a mysterious NGO. The whole thing is to serve the people who issue tasks and the killers. It is an organization that is neither black nor white, walking between justice and evil. Not only does he collect information about related tasks for his superiors, but he also issues tasks to his subordinates, the killer. Rate both the mission and the killer. This organization can easily find such detailed mission information that even the police station could not find for so long, which is enough to see the power of this organization, which is extraordinary. Suchen tried to ask the system in his mind system, do you know the state of mind of the organization behind the bounty mission? Immediately, the system's crisp prompt sounded in his mind. All detailed information about the bounty mission organization will be automatically released after the host reaches bounty level A. Currently the host is not qualified to obtain relevant information. After receiving such a reply, Suchen rolled his eyes. Anyway, he relied on this platform to make money. At present, there is not much need to know the organization information behind the bounty platform. Then he returned his attention to the third one. On the mission. And this 200-pound man behind the scenes does more than just that. Because he has become an establishment and an organization, he relies on human flesh information every year to engage in various things that dance back and forth on the edge of the law. During this period, there were not a few incidents where families were destroyed and people were killed. It can be said that it was serious enough to endanger social stability. Logically speaking, such a task should not be just a G-level task. And such information has been linked to the reward task list. The police department should you can also know. But the reality is so strange. The police station does know now. But it still can't find the exact evidence of the other party. In other words, everyone knows that this 200-pound internet gangster has committed a heinous crime. But because the other party is extremely vigilant and handles all crimes cleanly without leaving any clues. Therefore, even if the police station summons the other party, as long as the other party bites him to death and refuses to admit it, there is still nothing he can do to him. After all, this is a society ruled by law. The content of this third task is to photograph evidence of the crime committed by this 200-pound internet gangster at his home without his knowledge, and transmit the relevant evidence to the reward platform. And the reward amount is also huge. Well, it is a huge amount for the current Suchen. It is as high as $500,000. It is far beyond the scope of the reward amount for a G-level mission. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 900. Chapter 900 Ask the host to establish correct values in life. It's just that the actual mission operation falls into the category of G-level missions and does not cause any harm to the person being rewarded, so it is classified as G-level. This mission has a very high bounty. So it has been picked up by multiple killers. But all failed without exception. Moreover, some killers have the effect of alerting others because of their low skills and professional abilities. This makes it more difficult to collect criminal evidence of the cyber gangster. It has also increased the amount of the bounty mission from the previous 300,000 to the current 500,000. And, just now, the system suddenly refreshed the information on the bounty mission platform. Suchen was surprised to find out. The reward amount for this mission has actually been increased from 500,000 to 600,000. The reason is that 2 more killers failed in their mission. Not only were they discovered by the other party, but they also injured each other, making the task more difficult. There are even some F-class and even D-class killers who failed. I don't know if I can successfully photograph the other party's criminal evidence if I go there tomorrow. Suchen felt a little hesitant when he saw this. If he goes there tomorrow and finds that the other party is not doing anything because he is alert, but just playing games and sleeping at home, then his trip will be in vain. It looks very tempting, but the mission has too many random factors, so it is indeed a bit tricky. Suchen sighed in his heart. But at this moment, the system prompt sounded. Ding. Warm reminder from the system. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning, the cybercriminal who is the rewarded person in the third task will carry out a covered crime, and you can go there to take evidence at that time. Hiss. Suchen was shocked when he heard the system prompt. Can this system predict the behavior of the person who is being rewarded for me in advance? This is too powerful. Thinking of this, Suchen suddenly broadened his mind. He was as uncontrollable as a wild horse running wild. System Suchen rubbed his hands and smiled and said, since you can predict the behavior of the person who is being rewarded in advance, you must also be able to predict tomorrow's sports lottery, double color ball and other winning numbers, right? Also, which stock will rise the most tomorrow? Where can I find gold or money? Where can a beautiful girl fall in love with me? Suchen's questions came one after another, completely treating the system as an omniscient and omnipotent cheating weapon. It's not his fault. After all, there is already a system, and cheating devices are not that weird compared to the system. The system's answer to Suchen was also very straightforward. Silence. After waiting for 5 minutes, I saw no response from the system. Suchen shrugged. He muttered in a low voice, "It seems that I think highly of you. System. Please host establish correct values in life." This system is a pet evolution system. The host conquers and evolves pets to create his own pet army. Relying on the pet army to realize the host's dream is the right way. Anything else that has nothing to do with pet evolution will not be provided to the host by the system, nor is it capable of providing it. Hearing the system's announcement, Suchen nodded to express his understanding. After extinguishing some unrealistic thoughts in his heart, Suchen first went to the most developed electronics market here and bought a set of the smallest portable pinhole camera. Back. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 901. Chapter 901, Go to Palm Community and start the mission. When I got home, I tried wearing this camera equipment, which was smaller than the tip of a pen, on 9527. It is possible to discover. 9527 After evolution, the physical strength has far exceeded that of normal humans. Even though the body is small, there is still no problem wearing such a miniature camera device that weighs less than 10 grams. And it won't have much impact on flying. This entire set of equipment costs Suchen 3,000 yuan. When Suchen bought it, the boss smiled at him in a very obscene manner, with a look like "old man, everyone understands." The camera mounted on 9527 includes a signal transmitter and a micro battery, which can last for 15 minutes. Other terminal receiving equipment and other things were in Suchen's pocket. They were only about the size of a matchbox and were very portable. After testing the camera clarity and control, I found that the longest signal receiving distance of this device is only 150 meters. The longest distance that you can control 9527 is 100 meters. Just enough. Do these well. Suchen played a few more games, then turned off the lights and went to sleep. Early the next morning. It was already 8 o'clock in the morning when Suchen finished washing and eating. Take the subway to the vicinity of Palm Community. Suchen looked at the time, 8:40. It's still a bit early, so let's play around a bit. Suchen went to look at the surrounding scenic spots and take photos. Because it is close to the sea, the scenery in some places is quite good. Listening to the sound of the sea and watching the laughter of other tourists scattered around, Suchen lowered his head and looked at the time. 9:50. It's time. Suchen stopped a taxi. He reported the location he had already thought of to the driver. He also told the driver that he was motion sick and asked him to drive slower and drive faster. Slower is better, he will pay for the extra gas cost. In fact, little brother, if you have motion sickness, you might as well take the subway to go to Century Tower. The driver said while driving slowly. Suchen smiled and said, isn't this just to see the scenery outside? After all, you can't have your cake and eat it too, you have to sacrifice something. The driver smiled and said nothing more. The taxi circled the public road in the community and drove slowly towards the Century Tower. A minute later, it arrived at the second mission point. That is the mission of the ugly stepmother. The other party lives on the 13th floor. 9527 very easily, wearing a miniature camera device, he flashed to the 13th floor in 2 seconds. I happened to bump into the stepmother, gnashing her teeth and beating and scolding her eldest son. At the same time, he took out the rotten leftovers from the trash can and stuffed them into his eldest son's mouth. Eat. Eat it for me. Why can't I eat you to death, you bastard? The stepmother was beating and cursing vicious words. In just 20 seconds, all the actions of this vicious woman towards her eldest son were vividly displayed. Suchen watched the video in real time on his mobile phone and gritted his teeth. The taxi turned around here. The pedestrians waiting for the crosswalk happened to be almost beyond the 100-meter control range. Suchen ordered 9527 to return. About 5 minutes later, he arrived at the bottom of the floor where the protagonist of the first task of campus bullying, Girl A, lived. The latter lived. The floor is not high, on the 4th floor, which is of course also an elevator room. At this time, Girl A is chatting with friends on her Apple machine. She has her feet crossed and is smoking a lady's cigarette. She looks unkempt and looks like a female gangster.